Daf Mem Tes Amud Beis will begin Daf Mem Tes Amud Aleph, the very last line, the last word. We had a shaila about the chafina, is the kohen gadol is chayfin v'chayzer v'chayfin or not. Meaning, he does the chafina, he has the ketairos in his hands full. Does he come in to when he comes into the heichal, the kodesh kadoshim, before he comes in, it's poured into a ladle, into a kav. And we said that that's for practical reasons, because he can't bring in the coals and the ketairos unless the ketairos is in a kav. When he comes into the kodesh kadoshim, does he pour it back into his fist, into his hands, and then pour it onto the coals? Or does he pour it directly from the kav, from the ladle, onto the coals? So that was the shaila. Tashma, let's bring a riot from the following. It says, when the kohen gadol, he comes into the kodesh kadosh, he puts down the machta with the coals. What does he do with the ketairos? He takes the ladle, he takes it with his fingertips. Some say with his teeth. And he pulls it up with his thumbs until the handle reaches between his elbows. And then he tilts it and he pours it from the kav, from the ladle, into his hands. So we see clearly that he does, that he does it again, and that he does the chafina again. The price continues, and he puts a heap of it, a pile of it, onto the coals. Since it has the piles in a heap, therefore the smoke will be delayed in coming. It will be slow in the rising of the smoke. And that is considered to be a mila, so that the kohen, the Miri explains, the kohen gadol doesn't get choked by the smoke, because if it would be a thin layer, the smoke would rise suddenly and it could cause him to choke. So therefore he puts it in his tzayvra, he puts it in a mound, and therefore so the smoke should be shoya lavoi. And then v'yeshaim, however, some say no, opposite. Mefazra, he puts a thin layer, he scatters it, so that the smoke should rise quickly. Why do we want the smoke to rise quickly? The Mira explains, because so that there's smoke right away, and that the kohen gadol should not gaze into the kodesh kodashim. The Siach Yitzchak says the different shot is that the kohen gadol should quickly leave, and that there shouldn't be the fear amongst the people that the kohen gadol would die inside of the kodesh kodashim. So therefore, there's two opinions about how he piles up the ketairos. Does he put it into a mound? Does he pour it into a mound, or spread it into the thin layer? And the Brisa continues, V'zu hi avoda kasher shebemikdash. This was considered to be the difficult avoda in the Beis Hamikdash. What was the difficulty over here? Tosfos explains that the difficulty is because that he has the pain of taking the ladle with his teeth, according to the mandama that's with his teeth. It's very difficult to do that, to raise it and pick it up with his teeth. And also, he's pouring it onto the burning coals, so the danger that he should not get burned. The Rambam attributes it to difficulty to the ability, the difficulty in emptying from the kav, and from emptying from the kav into his hands. In addition to that, one should note that he has to pour it completely into his hands, and none of it should fall out, as the Miri explains. So it has to be poured into his hands, and it has to be poured with nothing spilling out. So therefore, what do we see over here? We see that this is how it's done, and this is described as Zui Avodah Kasha, and is the Avodah Kasha in the Beis Hamikdash. In fact, tomorrow Zui V'Suloi. Only this is the difficult one. Va'ika Malika, Va'ika Kamitza. Those are also considered to be difficult avodas in the Beis Hamikdash. Ela Zoi Avodah Kasha Me Avodas Kasha Shebemikdash. This was from the difficult avodas of the Mikdash. It was not the difficult one, it was from the difficult avodas and the Beis Hamikdash. But nevertheless, what we see from here, at any rate, we see Shema Mina Chayfen v'chayzer v'chayfen. We see at any rate that Kohen Gadol would do the chafinim. He would then pour it from his hands into the cup, into the ladle, come into the Kodesh Kodashim, pour it from the ladle back into his hands. A different shaila, a new shaila, shachad v'meiz. If the Kohen Gadol shechted his paroi, the parachatos, but he died before doing the hazon, the Kodesh Kodashim, mahu sheikones acher b'damai. Can the replacement Kohen Gadol use that dam? The dam was collected in the Kli Shoros. There was a Kabbalas dam. Can he take that dam of the shlit of the first Kohen Gadol and come in and do the hazon and the Kodesh Kodashim? Do we say that when it says that he comes in to the Kodesh Kadosh and he does the hazah with the par, he does it with the par, means even bedomashal par? Does the meaning of par mean also even the dam of the par, the blood of the par, even if the par itself is not alive? Then do we say that it includes the dam, even if the par is not alive? Or do we say, or do we say, no, there has to be the par. And if the par is shechted, and he didn't shech the par, then he can't come in, he can't bring the blood to do the hazon, the Kodesh Kadoshim. The pasuk says, with this is what he comes into the Kodesh of the par. So what does it mean by par? Does it mean that dafka with a par, that it has to be the par was alive when he shechted to collect the dam and that he brings in? And do we say bepar that v'loy b'dam shel par? Or do we say that it means bepar, and even if the dam is also called the par, that we say that the dam is also considered the par, and therefore even if the first Kohen Gadol died and now the second Kohen Gadol only has the dam, then it would be valid. So, mi amrin b'par v'afilu b'dam shel par, or dilma b'par v'loy b'dam shel par. Rav Chanina omer b'par v'loy b'dam shel par. It has to be the blood of the par that he had shechted. Reish Lakish sham b'par v'afilu b'dam shel par. And he says it's b'par, even b'dam shel par, with the blood of the par, even if he didn't shecht it, even if the first Kohen Gadol shechted. Rabbi Yami Amar b'par v'loy b'dam shel par. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka Amar b'par v'afilu b'dam shel par. They say Rabbi Yami, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafka asks a kasha, how can you say b'par v'afilu b'dam shel par? It says the Gabi the Korban Pesach, the Mishnah in Psochim, Nimin v'moishchem yedei mimeno archi yishachit, that people can be registered with the Korban Pesach and the Chabura, or they can withdraw from the Chabura until the Shechita of the Korban Pesach. Once the Korban Pesach is shechted, they cannot withdraw from the Chabura, they cannot join the Chabura. Now if you say that the blood is considered to be the animal itself, you say the dam is considered the par, afilu b'dam shel par, the dam of the par is considered to be the par. So why do you say you should say until the zrika, because it's considered to be that the seh is still intact, it's still here, it's still called the seh, that until, as long as you have the zrika, as long as you have the dam. So why do you say the shchita? It says in the pasuk, so the registration has to be in the chabura. It says, but if you're saying that then you're saying that the animal is considered to be the animal even with the dam. So therefore, if you're saying that legabe the par, you should say that legabe the seh, and therefore the one should be able to register, withdraw, so long as you have the dam of the seh, so long as it's before zrika. The Gemara answers, shiny awesome. Rav Yitzchak says, no, that's different, because over there, it doesn't just say miseh, it says mihiyos miseh, michiyusa shel seh. Means as long as it's alive, the animal has to be alive. It's not just simply called the seh, it's mihiyos michiyusa shel seh, that it's alive. Mosim Marzutra has a question of the following. Ein paidim, you have a pidyon peter chamor. Then there's a firstborn. If the firstborn, the bechor, is a donkey, if you have a bechor of a seh, so ein poidim, you can't redeem it. It has to be redeemed, but you can't redeem it loy be'egel, not with a calf, loy bechaya, and not with a chaya, loy b'shchuta, not with a shechted animal, even a lamb, loy b'treifa, and not with an animal that's treifa, and even if the treifa is a lamb, even if it's a lamb, v'loy b'treifa, v'loy b'kalayim, and not with a crossbreed animal, v'loy b'choy, and not with a koi that it's some hold it's a sofek chaya, some behema, sofek it's buried b'fnei. It's not clear exactly what the status of this animal is, but you can't redeem that. It has to be redeemed. The pigeon bechor has to be the petach hamor tifte b'seh. It has to be redeemed specifically with a lamb. So what do we see over here? That even though it says v'loy b'shchuta, not with the shechted one. So we see over here, even though the Torah says that it has to be with a seh, but if you're telling me that b'par, even b'damashal par, that means that the animal doesn't have to be alive. So here also, even though the Torah says that your petach hamor tifta b'seh, it has to be with a seh, with a lamb, but why can't it be with a shchuta? Nevertheless, you see that you can't, so therefore, similarly, you should say that the da b'par v'loy b'damashal par. The more answer shiny wholesome, the other says mi Pesach. No, we learn out Gzera Shava says from Pesach. Just like the Korban Pesach, it has to be something that you could be Mekayim the din of the Hakrov of the Korban Pesach with. So therefore, it has to be something that you could bring for the Korban Pesach. The seh that you bring for the Korban Pesach has to be obviously one that's alive, that you shechted for the Korban Pesach. A Korban Pesach has to be shechted lishma. It's one of the exceptions that the Korban Pesach, like a Korban Chatas, that is shechted shaloi lishma, not for its own sake, it's possible. So over here, that the Torah says that you bring a seh, it has to be that it's a seh that is alive, that is shechted for the purpose of a Korban Pesach. Therefore, the petach hamor has to be not with a shchuta. It has to be with a seh that is alive. It's practically more, well, if you have Gzera Shava, therefore you should say it's completely similar to the Korban Pesach. Ima lehalon zachar tam uven shana, just like the Korban Pesach. It has to be a male. It has to be a male. It has to be without a mum. It has to be a tom, and it has to be within the first year of age. Avkan zachar tam uven shana. Should you say the same thing that they say that you use for the pigeon petach hamor? Also has to be a zachar. It has to be a zachar tam uven shana. So are you going to say the same thing? Gemara says no. Talmud Lemah tifta riba. It says tifta. It says it twice. It says that therefore it's a riba, your marba, that you redeem it. You can redeem it not in a specific way, in a broad way, and even if it's not a male or tom or in the first year. Tifta riba. Well, if you're going to say it's a riboid, it's a riba, and it's marba. Even other things, even things that are not kosher for the Korban Pesach, afilu kulanami, then say everything should be kosher, and therefore it should be also a treifa, a shchuta, etc. So the Gemara says, Im kain se ma'hanile. Well, if that's the case, then if you're going to be marbe everything, then what would we learn out, and what would be the purpose of the Gzera Shava of se? Elamai, we have the Gzera Shava of se to teach me it has to be a se, like the Korban Pesach. And therefore, it can't be a shchuta. Therefore, it can't be a shchuta. That's not called a seh. And it can't be all of these other ayams that we exclude, which are not a seh, egel, etc. And it can't be a treifa, and etc. However, things which are specific to the halachas of the Korban Pesach, but do not negate the definition of seh, is valid. So the tifta were marbe zochar, something which is not a zochar, not a tam, and not a ben shona. Now those are specific halachas for the Korban Pesach, but they're not characteristics of a seh per se. Therefore, we say that the tifta were marbe, even if it's not a zochar, tam, or ben shona. However, legabe the other halachas of shchuta, etc., there we exclude them. I say Rabbi Yitzchak Nafkal Rabbi Ami v'ha'itzi es kol hapar. The pasuk says regarding the par koina Mashiach, the par that the Kohen Mashiach, the Kohen Gadol brings if he makes a mistake in Hayro. The pasuk says, "V'hoitzi es kol aparel mechus l'machnel mokem atorel sheva chadeshen v'sorv v'yisol eisim v'yishol sheva chadeshen yisarv." He removes the par, and now this is talking after the par is already shechted. It's not a live par, it's shechted, and it says that he takes it out to be burnt, and it refers to it as a par. So you see, it refers to a par that's shechted as a par. Rabbi Yami answers, "She'etzi es kuloi." What it means over here is, it's not classifying it as a par. It says, "V'hoitzi es kol par," meaning remove all of it, that all of it has to be removed, that the entire carcass has to be removed. That's what it means to emphasize, that all of the remains have to be burned outside the machne. Frek the Gemara of Yischon Napi asks, the is called parachatas ve'serachatas legabe Yom Kippur. It says that you take the parachatas ve'serachatas and it's shechted, a shechted par, a shechted goat, and it says that you take it out to be burned. So now here, it's not alive, it's shechted, and it refers to it as a par and a soyer. And as Tosfos points out over here, you can't say the pshat, as we said before, that it's coming to teach you that you take out all of the remains, because over here it doesn't say kol. Over here it doesn't say, like it says before, that as kol, that all of it. Over there it says that you take all of it as kol par, that to teach you that limit, that all of the remnants, what remains of it. But over here it doesn't say all of it, so therefore doesn't that show you that it's referring to the shechted par and the shechted seir as a goat and a bull? Amarapapa be'oravasar perish kuliyam aloi plig. No, it's not a riot from here. Our machlekes is referring to dam. If you say that when it says par, it's a filafut damashal par. The dam of a par is called the par. But over here, we're not talking about the blood. We're talking about or basar or perish. It's the hide, the meat, intestines, everywhere. Everybody agrees, even Rabami, that that's called a bull and that's called a goat. That's called a parasoir. Ki pligi badam. The machlekes is specifically badam. Mar savar dam ikri par, or mar savar dam lo ikri par. That's a machlekes specifically about the dam. Amar Ravashi, Mustaber command Amar Dam ikri par. It's Mustaber to say that it is, the dam is called a par d'chsiv, bezais yava Aaron el kodesh. It says with this that Aaron comes to kodesh. So it says in Parashas Achrei, it says bezais yava Aaron el kodesh bepar ben bakar lechatas v'ayil hoil. So with this he comes into the kodesh hakadosh. Now it says, does he bring the bull by the horns? Does he lead it in? So what does it mean he comes with it? It doesn't mean with the animal itself. It means with the blood. Par. And it calls it a par, so doesn't that show you that the dam is also called a par? Rami says, no, it's not a riot. It doesn't mean with what does he come in, physically what does he come in? What does it mean in the pasuk? What is the hechsher? What qualifies and what allows him to come into the kodesh? With bringing the korban of a par. He brings the par, the bull. He brings the par, and he does the avodah with the par. With that hechsher, that entitles him, allows him to come to the kodesh. We're not talking about what physical he brings into the kodesh. What's makshir him to buy in the kodesh? So that is the par, the avodah of the par.